TMI. Confessionals of the Nerd Kind.
We can keep that to the bare basics, at least plot-wise.
Yeah, we'll talk about the quote-unquote plots of that movie.
All right, so you're just joining us mid-conversation, as always.
So yeah. Well, unfortunately, our hot intros are not hot. So welcome everybody.
They never have been, right? It's
no, but when you get rid of the opening theme song,
you start listening. But even after that, blah 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 blah
I
blah
know.
blah.
Yeah, it's like you come in on a high, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, these two morons talking again.
Mm-hmm. So it's more apt, actually, because it was always a letdown, I think, probably to everybody.
Oh, you think so?
Epic theme song.
Well, at least it tells us. So anybody who stumbled across us and doesn't know, we are TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. My name is Jeff, and
I am Jim. And you may not realize it just from the title, but we are a movie podcast. But if you're really a fanboy, then you'll get it right off the bat. So
well, I'm hoping that if you see the icon, at least it's a popcorn bucket. So
yes, yeah, maybe that's a
little bit of a hint as to what we do here. This
is a gourmet popcorn podcast. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you, Orville Redenbacher, for sponsoring us, and Carlo and Rossi, Asti Spumante wine, which is not a good pairing, by the way. I dragged my wife when we were in courtship mode, and I dragged her to the movie theater to go see Star Trek Generations. Now, my wife was unfamiliar with Star Trek. Maybe we'd watched a handful of Next Generation episodes or something. And we snuck in one of those big gallon jugs of Carlo Rossi white wine in a backpack. That's before they used to even check your backpack or anything. And proceeded to eat popcorn and drink white wine. And it was a rough night.
You snuck it in a backpack. What were you, like a stormtrooper on Tatooine?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. They didn't even think twice. They didn't question what was in there. We got 2 red Solo cups, and we were having a grand old time. Woke up and had a rough day at work, and I said, "Wow, if she suffered through that, I'm gonna have to marry her now." Yeah, Beetlejuice. So we both saw this 2 weeks ago.
Was it 2 weeks or was it 1 week?
I feel like it was a month ago.
It does seem like a long time.
I did have to refresh my notes, and but it was 3 weeks. Well, 2 weeks, because normally we'll see the movie and then record over that weekend. That's how we've been trying to do it.
But that's
so it's
what we're
been
covering.
In the theater. Yes,
it's been in the theater. We are both familiar, and I watched it again just before viewing the new movie, the original. 1988 Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Just so I'd be all familiar with the little nuances there that might have been referenced, and there were some.
I feel like I know that movie inside out. I've seen it.
Yeah, I've not seen it many times, but a handful of times.
Yeah, I've seen The Exorcist 1,000 times, and I just keep getting funnier every time I say it.
So this may be a good thing or a bad thing, since I watched it right before, because you can't help you can't help it.
Well, no, it's been 36 years. 36 years between these two movies.
But if you're going to see this and you're a fan of the original, of course you want that same flavor. So we'll see if it gets there.
Okay. So that's our main feature. And then on the back end, we have a pairing with another Tim Burton movie.
Yes.
Corpse Bride.
As we know, the original Beetlejuice was all about the matrimonial vows. And this one doesn't veer far away from that. So
no, I actually want to call this episode 3 Weddings and a Few Funerals. Because it is pretty it's an apt pairing. And it's been a long time. I actually own Corpse Bride on Blu-ray, and I had to break the seal in order to watch it. So I must have saw it in the theater, picked it up, and it's just sat there.
Yeah, the last time I saw it was in the theater.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So that was fun revisiting. But if you want to do a little bit of news first, and then we can get into our Beetlejuice action.
Sure, let's go.
Okay, well, I hate to even mention this because it's very, very sad, but we have lost Mr. James Earl Jones, Mufasa, to certain generations, King Joffrey, voice of CNN, but more importantly, the voice of Lord Darth Vader himself. 93, so you can't say the man didn't lead a good life.
Yeah, and from what I read, he passed in his home here in the Hudson Valley.
He lives right here in Pauling. Our past co-host actually has a signed Darth Vader helmet because his father was a delivery driver for that area. And James Earl Jones came to the door and blessed the man with a signed helmet.
Wow.
So very cool. Obviously there's a lot of outpouring of love for this man who's been in this field for quite some time. And I only hit on a few, Field of Dreams. I think he was in Patriot Games. Was he in the those Harrison Ford Patriot Games?
So it seems like whenever you needed a character with the gravitas,
yes,
whether it be voiceover or live action, he's the go-to guy.
Yeah. So in doing a little bit of research, just to kind of hit some points, I came across this article in Hollywood Reporter that the headline reads, James Earl Jones' death spurs question about his Star Wars future. He's dead.
That doesn't necessarily need to be so ridiculous, that headline, because as we know, death doesn't stop future filmmakers from putting you in their movies.
Well, now we do know that. But here's the deal. What maybe some people don't know, which was, I think it was last year, he actually signed over the rights to his archival voice work. So there's a startup company called Respeecher, and it's an AI. What they do, they call like all the audio. And so he sold the rights that they're able to go back and forever use his voice as Darth Vader. It's this Ukrainian startup company called Respeecher. So I guess Lucasfilm would have to go to them that they want to reuse it. I don't know. It's kind of weird. But you're right, because we got the new Lion King movie coming out. It looks like it's bookend with Mufasa telling the story to Simba and Timon and Pumbaa. I don't know if they used his voice. I don't think that he recorded anything new for this movie.
Or if they dipped into the archive that we were just discussing.
Right. But very smart on this man's, leave something beyond for his family. I mean, this is his most iconic thing, is that timbre of a voice. I don't know if you're familiar, but right now, if you remember Rogue One, the Star Wars movie Rogue One, famously put an AI version of Peter Cushing out there. And even though it looks like they received the rights from the family, I didn't do enough research into it, but I guess there's a trial going on now. His production company or whoever represented him at the time apparently are not getting a cut. So they're going to trial. That movie's been out for 10, 12 years now. And you're going to start seeing this more and more, where you're going to start seeing these people. And we were even going to talk about that a little bit with Beetlejuice, because they famously omit a character, and yet he's still a major part of the storyline. And you wonder, did they get permission to use his rights and likenesses?
Well, they didn't use was his likeness ever in the movie?
Yeah, there's the whole dream sequence in claymation showing you what happened to him.
Claymation, yeah, but
it's his likeness. It looks just like him.
Well, I don't want to bring up the story behind this guy.
Well, you have to a little bit, because there's two very troublesome actors from the first movie.
We're talking about the dad from the first movie.
Yeah. All right. Let's finish up the news and then we'll get into it. So go back, and you just mentioned James Earl Jones. A lot of famous movies. Most people know his stuff later on in life. But the one thing, when I was a kid and I was obsessed with Star Wars, I went out of my way to go and watch everything and anything that any of these actors were in. So Sir Alec Guinness or Peter Cushing and James Earl Jones. If you're not familiar with this movie, it came out in 1970 called Great White Hope, in which he plays a boxer. And I remember the storyline is basically, I think that he has a white wife, and that's kind of like but he's like this down and dirty boxer. And he is super shredded. He is so young and so cut up, but he still has that damn voice. highly recommend if you go search that out, because it'll give you a newfound appreciation for this man. The only other news I came across, and I thought this was kind of, I didn't know this was even a thing, which is they're making a sequel to The Black Phone. Do you remember this movie we watched with Ethan Hawke as the quote unquote grabber? Episode 238. If anybody wants to go back and listen to our review of that, they're making a sequel. I thought he died.
Maybe it's a prequel.
So it's the same kid, Finney, who's in the first one, same director. And apparently they have this brilliant idea for a sequel. The only reason it even showed up on my radar is that it was supposed to drop in June, and they backed it up 4 months to October. If you want to drop it around a spooky season, that makes perfect sense. So we have a full other year. It's not until 2025. But I guess that first movie was such a big hit, they want to make a sequel. And I'm like, I guess there's something there. Was he going to play his evil twin brother, who also happens to have a basement full of dead children?
Or they're just calling him on the phone still and want to chat.
What is this? It's a chat line now.
I wasn't a fan of the original, so I won't be seeing the sequel.
I'm gonna demand that we watch it next year. So you're not excited, is what you're telling me?
I am not excited. No.
Okay. All right. Well, somebody is.
Obviously.
I think the powers that be that like the money that was brought in. So that's it. That's the only news items I have.
Okay, so let's get into to Beetlejuice.
Okay, Beetlejuice. Did you see trailers beforehand? Because there was one in particular that set me off 10 minutes into this movie. I still couldn't get over it.
I saw the same Beetle Max commercial twice before this.
Yeah. When Tim Burton of 1988 wanted this character to be hawking life insurance or car rentals.
If the money was there, maybe he would have used it to fund Batman. Who knows?
Maybe. That did come out a year later, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
I'm talking about the Christopher Reeves documentary.
Oh, yeah.
See this trailer?
Although it wasn't like a bona fide trailer, it was more part of the commercials. It looked like it might be one of those special Fathom events.
Yeah. Yes, it's like 2 days. Yes, correct. I was weeping in my seat watching this stupid thing. And then the movie starts, and it is so like immediately you've got the Danny Elfman scores just going, and you're overlooking the little miniature set of the town, and I'm wiping tears out of my eyes still. I should be happy at this point. What's going on? They save that for the back end of the movie.
Now, I mentioned before that I watched the original Beetlejuice. We've already covered Beetlejuice.
Yeah, that was actually episode 202.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But I don't know if I brought this up then, but it occurred to me on this viewing.
Okay.
Why does Beetlejuice bother making the Maitlands dig him up? Why make it that hard? You say his name twice, that should be it. He's there. Why go through that? If that was me, I'd be like, I got to work. No, forget it. I'll find another way.
You're right. They did have to dig him up. I don't know. It was a fun visual.
It was, but didn't make much sense.
It did. There's a lot that doesn't make sense in this world.
And why aren't the Maitlands blue like all the other corpses that they encounter? They drowned.
That is a good question. Did you catch in the opening sequence again? Did you catch their car in the river underneath the bridge?
I did.
Yeah.
That was part of the model, right?
Yes, correct. It is, and this is the nice thing about this movie, which is they stuck practical pretty much the all way through. So even like the sandworms are the old school stop motion animation. I mean, I guess comparing the two, one right after the other, you probably have a better sense of it. But when I'm watching this movie, I'm like, I'm right back in 1988.
Yeah, well, it opens the same way because it's a bird's eye view of the same town. Like,
yeah, but the model was pretty
segueing
impressive.
into the model. Yeah.
Yes, and I will say this is where I felt that maybe my Regal had finally updated their sound system, because this theme, this score was just blasting, and I was like, all right, here we go, man. This is it. I was very happy. I'm very excited. I'm on board.
But during this opening credit sequence, even though it's beautiful, I bit my lip because a name came up that I never want to see.
Justin Theroux?
Yes.
How would I guess that?
And thankfully, you're supposed to hate him. So I hated him.
Job well done there.
Yeah.
He plays Rory. Yeah.
Who you
Who's-
know is not on the level from the second he appears on screen.
No, he's smarmy. He's just, yeah, not a big fan of this character.
So he is
But again, you're right.
Lydia's producer. She's involved, and this is just like an overview. She's involved now as an adult in a show called Ghost House because she's one of these like, on-screen psychics, like, Long Island Psychic or something that we know.
Yep.
She hosts this show. She's a psychic mediator, she calls herself, and she investigates haunted houses. And she's still to this day haunted by Beetlejuice. But she's, in the bright lights, big city now, and she's got this really smarmy guy, her producer, who's also her fiance that she's planning to marry. But what sets this plot in motion is that Mom, still played here by Catherine O'Hara, tells her that Dad has died.
Well, she says, Charles has left me. And she's like, what? So we find out that Delia, she's got like this one-man art installation in Soho in a major city, maybe not New York.
Yeah,
but,
fittingly ridiculous, right?
Yeah, but this is, when we saw her last, she was sculpting and whatever. And Charles was happy in his new home. The Maitlands were living with them as ghosts up in the attic. And everything was hunky-dory. Lydia was going to the little girls' school down the street. And now, like you said, you cut. Oh, by the way, Winona Ryder, way to rock the exact same hairstyle for 35 years. There's no way in hell this character would have maintained that hair.
But she does.
She does. I mean, I'm going to put my real nerd hat on here for a bit, but Winona Ryder was only 15 when she filmed the original Beetlejuice. And I had a very unhealthy fascination with her character. I was a little bit older. So
see, I think that was part of the original that I found the character mildly irritating. Because if you have to say that you're strange and unusual, are you really strange and unusual? Or is it just a put on?
That's a good point. You would think her therapist would have figured that out by now, but no, she just, she sees ghosts.
So what sets this plot in motion is that Charles has died, played by Jeffrey Jones, as we know. We alluded to this a little bit earlier in the first movie, but he is not present here, live action, at least. Mom recounts over the phone how he died. It's all done in claymation. He was in a plane crash. Oh, no. Oh, but he didn't. That's not how he died. Right. He was then eaten by sharks.
Right. Did he drown? No, he survived that. But how would they know that? How would she know all this?
This is true. This is a great point.
Yeah. Do you know this whole thing came out of Tim Burton's? He had a nightmare that he survived a plane crash only to be eaten by a shark. So he's like, we'll just put that in a movie. Like, okay.
So you're thinking, well, this is not going to stop Charles from being in the movie if he's dead, because that's what this movie is about.
That's the whole point. Oh, no.
So you're right. He's there, but the top half of him is gone because he has been eaten by a shark, which is very convenient for the filmmakers because they do not need to enlist Jeffrey Jones to do this. Now, as I'm watching this in the theater, I assumed that the actor was dead, apologetically. And that's why he wasn't here. But no, it's much more dark than that.
And he is gone.
So, yeah. So he's technically, Jeffrey Jones is not in this movie, but the character of Charles.
But he is. And like I said, this claymation flashback, it's a spot on caricature of him. His face is on the tombstone, which is a translucent shark fin. And I'm like, that's a little much. So you would think that he would have at least given approval for his likeness. Yeah. Maybe a couple of years we'll be talking about a lawsuit from this movie.
Mm-hmm. Lydia has a daughter played by, everybody knows that Jenna Ortega is in this movie by this point.
Spot on casting, by the way.
Yep. And she is just pretty much the new young Lydia.
Yeah.
Disaffected. She doesn't believe in all of her mom's hocus pocus and hates Rory. So that endeared her to me.
Well, that's also because we find out that Dad was killed. Dad is dead. Dad is gone. And this Rory guy, who was Lydia's producer on this TV show, is like somehow moving in on her. Yeah, I'm not really crazy the way that they kind of set up Lydia. that she's really doesn't have her shit together. And like you said, Astrid doesn't believe any of it. Listen, I know all too well, my kids are very embarrassed that their dad has a podcast. So if your mom is suddenly, famous for talking to ghosts and has her own TV show, and she is, Astrid is constantly ridiculed by her friends or classmates, that, yeah, your mom's a freak.
We have to have the bike riding scene through town. So, that's
Yeah,
what you get
see
in the
where the
trailer.
old hardware store was is now a bagel shop, and there's the old school.
Yeah. So, as we said, Lydia's haunted by Beetlejuice to this day, and he's still
And those
out
were
there.
some fun. Those were nice little moments. I like those a lot, where all of a sudden she would see him in the audience or see him in a crowd. And you wonder, like, has this been going on for 36 years, or is this like kind of a new thing?
And you realize as the movie goes on that he's orchestrating this. It's not just in her head.
Right.
But you also see his whereabouts. His head is no longer shrunken as it was at the end of Beetlejuice, but he's working with all the shrunken head guys, Bob being their leader, apparently. And now he has a call center. So I don't know how he finagled
so he's got
that.
like a job. Yeah, I was asking the same thing. So all these shrunken head guys work for him.
But the call center is for his services, right? It's not like he's a civil servant working for this, the undead company.
I didn't quite understand the whole setup of this.
But anyway, that's where we see him, in a call center.
Right.
And elsewhere, in a real throwaway cameo, Danny DeVito in Deadland, in the Dead Office, is playing a janitor.
Oh, very happy to see Danny DeVito in anything.
And he's cleaning the floors, and there's a water spill, and the waxer or whatever it is he's using zaps him, and also zaps all these boxes, because it's like a Raiders of the Lost Ark, storage unit of all these mystery boxes. And a bunch of boxes that get zapped happen to have different body parts of all the same corpse. And here we go. This is very reminiscent of Corpse Bride, this aspect of this movie.
And Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
all these parts kind of, come alive on their own, and they all crawl together. And
this is a really nice sequence, by the way.
yeah.
But if you want to keep these parts, why were they stored together? Why?
Maybe they only got one room. There's very limited space.
I don't know. All of a sudden, this Monica Bellucci.
Yeah, Monica Bellucci, who we know from the Matrix movies and various other things.
Wasn't she one of the brides in Dracula as well?
Yes,
Bram
she
Stoker's?
was.
She
Yes,
was.
she
Okay.
was. Yeah.
So again, like you said, we got a couple of weddings going on in this setting up, and she is a bride.
Yeah, she is Dolores, and Beetlejuice's ex-wife. So we get a little bit of insight into his life.
So right here, when we find this out, like, all right, this is interesting. All right, where's this going?
It doesn't really go anywhere. She is so in the background.
Nowhere. I'm going to tell you right now, there are so many freaking side plots and storylines in this movie that it's convoluted. And this one story, because there's a scene where you get flashbacks to Beetlejuice during the plague, robbing graves and her when they're first like together, and they get married, right? You see them get married, and then she poisons him. But it's interesting because you're getting this backflash, you're getting this kind of like this peek into who this character was, and you're like, again, it's interesting, and it's like, all right, tell me more. Her whole point, the whole plot of this storyline is that she's chasing down Beetlejuice because she needs to get married again, even though she's the one who killed him.
And in the meantime, Beetlejuice still wants to marry Lydia.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of wanting marriage, and Rory wants to marry Lydia and actually proposes to her at Charles's funeral.
So you may ask yourself, well, how does Beetlejuice figure into this if Lydia has learned her lesson from the first movie and after what happens when you call him? Well, there's yet another plot that we haven't discussed yet. Astrid, played by Jenna Ortega, is, very disaffected. She bicycles away in disgust during a party at her mom's at the old house on the top of the hill. And she literally runs into a tree on her bike after she loses control. And up above, there's a tree house. And there's this kid who's, these are late teenagers. So what he's doing
Yeah.
hanging out in a treehouse, is up in the air, literally.
He's reading a book. He was reading a book.
But, he comes down and helps her out and he introduces himself. And what is this kid's
Jeremy.
name? Jeremy.
Yep.
And something's not on the up and up with this kid because he brushes off introducing her to his parents, and you only see his parents from behind. So you're like, are these other characters? Are these from the first movie? Is this going to be a surprise reveal? Then you see the handbook for the recently deceased on his table. So you're, oh.
But he tells her he found it at a garage sale. And you have to believe that, well, maybe it was the Maitlands, because they dismissed Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis's characters in one sentence.
Right.
They found a loophole. They moved on.
Yeah.
Okay. And I did hear an interview with Gina Davis, and she says, well, it's been 36 years. Ghosts don't age. I have.
If they were in it, you'd be forced to watch two CG characters, de-aged. So maybe it's best that they're not here.
Well, with everything else going on in this movie, it's like, all right, move on. Yeah. Enough. That's fine. I was content with that explanation, even though at the end of the first movie, it was a pseudo happy ending because they were living in harmony with the Dietzes. But fine, they found a loophole. They moved on. They're even happier now.
Mm-hmm. It's fitting that they're not here, but it's also unfortunate because they were the driving force of the first movie.
Yes, correct.
So
I agree.
They are missed. Despite the best intentions, they are missed.
Yeah.
But, of course, Jeremy is not on the up and up. Nobody's on the up and up in these movies, male character wise, at least.
I will tell you, I did not see this coming.
I didn't either, because he comes off when you
up.
first get introduced to Jeremy. He's like this goth emo,
Yeah, right. Exactly who Astrid needs to commune with, because she is not happy with her family.
No, so you think perhaps they're going to make a pact, and then they're going to fight Beetlejuice together by the end.
Right.
So that's where your mind is going, where the plot is new.
Yeah.
Jeremy's dead. That's why he has that book.
Yeah. So Lydia even makes a comment early in the movie that, I was about your age when I saw Ghost for the first time. So is it an ability that happens when you reach puberty? Because I think that Astrid's well beyond puberty.
I was asking myself, how old is Jenna Ortega?
I think she's in her 20s. She's got to be in her mid 20s, if not even more so. But yeah, she's played here like a teenager.
Jeremy wants Astrid for insidious purposes. There's some loophole that he's discovered where if he trades himself with her to the land of the dead, he can come out to the land of the living.
Okay, so we were told in the first movie that this handbook of the recently deceased reads like stereo instructions, and yet anybody who picks this book up immediately understands what's going on in this movie. And please refresh my memory, because isn't this the exact same storyline in Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, where that girl Ghost is trying to get Egon's granddaughter to kill herself so that she can come take over her body and come back?
I believe you're right. Yes.
So we've already seen this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you're right. Astrid lets her guard down. She finds this kid. She relates to him and immediately find out that he's a homicidal maniac who killed his parents.
And the reason you didn't see his parents, or that he brushed her right past them, is because they are dead and they still have whatever he killed them with stuck in them. So
his mother had like an egg beater in her eyeball. And I'm like, all right, this is straight. This is so Burton right here. And he goes, I got an idea. We see Dad in silhouette watching Wheel of Fortune, and did he have a chainsaw? What did he have? Something sticking out of his neck?
He had some kind of tool in his
Yeah.
neck.
So anyway, and we do find out from the neighbor that this house is just sat there empty. She can't sell it. She's a real estate agent.
Yeah.
So So Astrid somehow stumbles into it, and this kid who's trapped on the property can't go past the tree house, has been stuck there, and he died because the cops came and he fell out of the tree house and broke his neck.
But again, he's not blue like all the other corpses that we see in this. He looks just like a normal human being. But he does manage to suck Astrid into the world of the dead. And this is why Lydia has to call on Beetlejuice to get him to help her. What's
weird is I read that So first of all, Michael Keaton has not lost a step. I did not watch these movies back to back. Yes, he has aged. We've all aged, but he embodies this character. He has not missed a beat. But I read that he's got the exact same screen time as he did in the first movie, like 17 minutes. But I'm like, but he's in this a lot. Like, he's not this ghost that comes and goes. Like, he's a main story element, and they have to rely on him. Lydia goes in to go chase after him. They have a wacky little adventure together.
Yeah, it did seem to me that he was in this one more than he was in the first one. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. You know, he's hanging out with the Bobs, which, again, like I said, everything's practical. All these guys, these shrunken head guys, are really, actors in costumes or whatever running around. Yeah, it was charming.
The highlight of this is the double wedding scene at the end, because, of course, in order to agree to help Lydia save her daughter, Beetlejuice again wants to marry Lydia. Now, you're thinking, well, how does the Beetlejuice's ex-wife figure into all this? She doesn't.
She doesn't.
Until the very end, when she just shows up again.
Yeah, because he's on the run. Like, he's petrified that she's loose, but you never really get any sense of what the danger is or what his true concern is.
Like, if they had scenes throughout of her confronting him and them having like altercations, that could have been the entire storyline. I didn't need all the extraneous Astrid getting kidnapped stuff. I think that the Beetlejuice's corpse bride was enough to sustain the movie, but the filmmakers
we haven't even talked about the dead dad storyline that comes back into play. Lydia's ex-husband, or not ex-husband, but dead husband, Astrid's dad. So, right, you all of a sudden, so this guy, Jeremy, tricks her into going, and all you got to do is fill out this form, and all of a sudden he has the ability to come back to the living, and she's now trapped in the afterlife. We do get a really nice Soul Train sequence with Don Cornelius. Apparently that's a guy pretending to be Don Cornelius.
But no one is getting on this train that's not a Soul Train dancer except for Astrid.
And I'm guessing this is a none too subtle "Disco is Dead" commentary. And I'm like, you're about 40 years too late for this, but it's a fun sequence. And Delia gets bitten by two asps that were supposed to be defanged. And so now she's running around in the world of the dead. She's trying to find Charles. He's running around with no head or shoulders, just a big corpse with a bite mark taken out of him. And he's talking. How? Bob can't talk. Oh, I mean, and Willem Dafoe. We haven't even brought in Willem Dafoe's character of this action. So this Dirty Harry style action hero who did his own stunts and got blown up on set. And so now he's dead, but he still thinks he's this character. And he's got police that are chasing after Beetlejuice as well.
I think he's more investigating the ex-wife of Beetlejuice, whom we never see throughout the movie. So,
but they were all chasing Beetlejuice.
They were, yeah, because he wants to question Beetlejuice about the ex-wife.
I want to question him about the ex-wife. Like I said, we get that nice little flashback sequence, and you're like, all right, we're getting something different here. It was like we had 36 years to come up with a story, and it was like we've taken everything that we've thought of over these 30 plus years, and we're just gonna put them in one movie.
But let's get to the climax, the double wedding scene.
Okay.
Justin Theroux wanted to marry Lydia on Halloween. So he's waiting at the altar as she's trying to save Astrid. And then they emerge into the church. They get rid of Rory. Beetlejuice pushes him aside because now he wants to seal the deal. Now that Astrid is safe, he wants to marry Lydia. Yeah, and they have a huge musical number revolving around MacArthur Park, the original MacArthur Park.
Yes, the Richard Harris version, not the Donna Summers.
You do hear that over the opening.
Yes, correct. Yeah, they use both versions. Although I can't hear the song without thinking Weird Al's Jurassic Park.
It's a ridiculous song to begin with.
But it's a fantastically ridiculous song.
It's about a cake. Somebody crying over a cake being left out in the rain.
I always thought that maybe there was more going on with these lyrics, and I just never looked into like what it really meant. But it doesn't matter. This whole movie is silly, and
And
it
of
doesn't
course,
take itself seriously.
they have
So,
a visual of a giant wedding cake that is melting. Apropos.
I did like the fact. Do you remember there? I think there was like Beetlejuice. They had a cartoon.
Yeah,
After
I remember.
So all 4 seasons are now available on Tubi. And without really doing my homework, I think that dress that Lydia's wearing at the end, the big red dress, is a callback to the animated series. I could be wrong, but they're leaning into every one of these things. I did. I don't know if you listened to. There's a podcast with. It's called Smartless. It's Jason Bateman, Sean Hayes, and Will Arnett, and Michael Keaton was on there, and he was talking about like getting back into this makeup. And he says after like a couple of days, he's looking in the mirror and he was just like, all I'm seeing is like action figures. All I'm seeing is like, toy promotions and shit. And he goes, I really had to kind of push past that.
Dolores, Beetlejuice's ex-wife, shows up at this huge musical number, finally trying to get her revenge on Beetlejuice, which is kind of very short-lived because she and Rory together are taken out by a sandworm. So just, just like the first one, sandworms to the rescue.
Yeah. When in doubt, go to sandworms.
Yeah. So now Lydia no longer has an annoying fiance and Beetlejuice no longer has an annoying ex-wife to bother them. It also was revealed that there was some kind of a loophole that Beetlejuice didn't do something right according to the Book of the Deceased, so he has no right to marry Lydia. So boom, happy ending, right? So it ends with another episode of Ghost House. Now Jenna Ortega's Astrid believes in her mother, so now they're bonded. So after the taping of Ghost House, it's revealed that maybe there wasn't a happy ending. And I actually really loved this ending because suddenly Lydia wakes up after it. So the dream was her recording Ghost House. She wakes up in bed next to Beetlejuice.
Right.
Married. So you're thinking, did she really marry him?
Did this really happen? Right.
Yeah. And it's like, I think they took the line right out of Patrick Duffy's mouth from Dallas. Like,
it's all a dream. Can you pass the soap, honey?
So, and it ends just right there.
Whoa, you're missing the baby Beetlejuice.
Well, yes, the baby Beetlejuice. That's another one.
So this is an end of movie curveball. Like you said, everything kind of gets wrapped up and you're like, all right. And, then you get that little dream sequence, but then you cut to Lydia and Astrid are now traveling the world, which is what they always wanted to do with Dad. Astrid gets married and to a kid that looks almost exactly like this Jeremy.
But that was part of the dream. That was part of Lydia's, everything has a happy ending.
But then you cut to the birthing sequence where Astrid's giving birth, and it's this creepy, it's alive baby Beetlejuice that just comes popping out a la Robin from V, and goes on a killing spree, and he's climbing up the walls, and he's got the little Beetlejuice suit on. And I think that's when she wakes up and he's next to her.
Yes.
So there's a lot going on.
Let me just rewind and go back to the point where I was standing in line waiting for my tickets.
Okay, we're going.
There's a guy in front of me who is decked out. He's got a Beetlejuice t-shirt, a denim jacket with a Beetlejuice patch on it.
Wow.
So he gets up to the popcorn and the guy's like, I would have been the same. Let me guess. You're here to see Beetlejuice. Right. And the guy's like, no, I saw it last night. We're seeing this today because he was with his wife. And he says, and to tell you the truth, I didn't like it. It was too busy.
Oh, no. So he already ruined it for you before you even got in.
He said it was too busy.
Son of a...
And the guy was right. He was absolutely right. And this guy was a Beetlejuice super fan. Obviously.
See, that's a problem, though. This is why you've got all these Star Wars super fans crapping all over the sequels. Because for 30-some years, this guy has loved this character. He's loved that movie. There's no way it's going to top. No way you're going to be able to beat it. Your expectations are too high. So I'm assuming that you were not smitten with this movie.
Well, I didn't like it as much as the first one. I didn't dislike it. but I
Right.
thought the first one was a better, viewing experience.
Yeah. Well, it's a
Um,
lot more streamlined. It's actually got a cohesive
yeah.
beginning, middle, and an end.
There were aspects of this that I really liked. Of
Yeah.
course, the MacArthur Park
Yep.
sequence I
Yes.
thought was very inventive and fun. Love the baby because it shows up twice, the baby.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
And I really loved the ending. I really thought that that was a bold choice to end it on a question mark,
Well, listen, you got it's taken 36 years for a sequel, and you're naming the movie Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. We all know that trilogies are the soup du jour. So you have to do a Beetlejuice Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. And you can't just set it up, throw that curveball out there. Is that real? Is that not real? Is this her new reality?
Yeah, so maybe that was the dream. Maybe that's how it'll turn
Yes.
out. Who knows? But it's
Although Tim Burton said that he'll be well over 100 before they get around to a sequel. So although it seems to be doing pretty damn well in the theater. So never say never. If you're going to do something, you gotta strike while the iron's hot. You can't wait another.
It is doing well on a roughly $100 million budget. This point in its release, it's in its second.
That's actually
weekend.
Relatively small budget
For
nowadays.
a movie like this. Yeah. Now, as we record, it's in its second weekend. They are predicting that it's going to end this weekend with 50 million, bringing its total to 186. So already well over its budget.
Yeah, correct.
People want to see this.
There's an audience for it. They just need to do like just tie it in with Ghostbusters. Have those Ghostbuster kids now chase after Beetlejuice.
That would be great. That would be great.
Since
Although,
they're basically sharing the same storyline.
You can't do Beetlejuice though without Tim Burton. I don't know if he'd want to.
No, I agreed, and I think, regardless of the fact that this thing is absolutely bloated and overstuffed with way too many storylines, like you said, the one major storyline that would have been interesting and different than what's come before is this Dolores that goes nowhere. They just dismiss. It's like they get to the end of the movie and they're like, we don't know what to do with her. So let's just take her out. And it's such a depressing, it's such a letdown, but there's so many things to like about this. We mentioned this last episode, which is we have not seen a movie from Tim Burton since 2018, Dumbo. You have to go all the way back to episode 52 of our podcast. I feel like he's back in form. I feel like there's so much to like about this. It has that 80s vibe. It looks like he could have made this 3 years after the original. I did like it, but yeah, you're right. It's like it's too much. It's just like it's all over the place. They could have made 3 completely different movies with these storylines.
And like I said, I would have wanted to see the Dolores storyline or just run rampant.
Yeah.
Just go with that. My grade is 3 out of 5. Solid. It could have been a lot better.
Yeah. See, I'm gonna go higher because at the end of the day, I had fun. I had fun.
It was fun. It was
watching this. I'm gonna go 4.25.
Ooh.
I enjoyed this. I was happy. The minute that theme song kicks in, and like I said, the music, Danny Elfman. Boom, that score. You got that lovely camera panning over the very practical set of the town. And I thought this was solid. This was Tim Burton coming back to form. Unfortunately, it just got bogged down in way too many storylines. But I do highly recommend that people go see this. Make up your own minds. And at least we didn't get the Kevin Smith sequel, which was going to be Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian.
I did see that. It's like that's shades of the Brady Bunch, even that title.
If they had gone full on Brady Bunch in Hawaii, I would have loved it. But there was also another sequel in development called Beetlejuice in Love. Now that could have been the Monica Bellucci Dolores storyline. Do I need to know the origin of this character? Not really.
But it was fun to see him as a human and not
that's
that
just
different.
it. You're teasing because even in the first movie, he talks about, the plague and all the, it was fun times or whatever. Yeah, it was nice to see Justin Theroux get his comeuppance, so because he is a very despicable character.
Yes, he is.
You do not like him in any way, shape, or form. 3 weddings and a couple funerals. Beetlejuice was the very first DVD ever mailed out by Netflix in 1998.
Really?
So, yes. And I also found out, so the producer, Brad Pitt, his Plan B Entertainment bankrolled some of this production-wise. And I had to laugh because between Brad Pitt and Justin Theroux, weren't they both married to Jennifer Aniston?
I don't think Justin ever was.
Well, I think he dated her.
He did, and
They
then
were
you know,
I don't know. I don't stay on top of that, but so that was just a weird name I saw mixed in there. Go check it out. It's only in its second week.
I wouldn't go as far as to call it kid friendly
No,
because there is some nightmarish imagery. But if you've got older kids,
not only
you can
that,
handle
you
that.
know, I mean, yeah, there's, just like the first one, you're getting a couple, like you said, people are all dead. So like there's a cat lady that looks like she died and the cats ate half of her.
Yeah, but it's not. It's all played for laughs. Like this gruesome
Correct.
imagery is all played for laughs.
But
so
like,
it's very lighthearted.
in the first one, the one thing I did miss was the caseworker from the first movie, the old lady. I can't think of her name. I'm assuming that actress has passed.
Yeah, unless they would have used her actual ghost. But I did note that the first Beetlejuice was allotted one F-bomb, and this one has a bleeped out F-bomb.
I think that was for effect, though, because he was in the church, wasn't he, when he said it?
Yeah.
So I think that was on purpose. Maybe he wasn't allowed to curse in church. I don't know. I don't know either. So, but we're not done with churches. No,
but before we get to church, we're stopping off at the concession stand. Now, I had too good of a concession treat for Alien Romulus, and because events out of my control, we cut the last episode back and did not have a concession. But I don't want to drop it because I don't want to wait until another Alien movie comes out before we can talk about this concession, because it was very nicely themed.
Okay, all right. Yep.
I was looking for a treat within a treat, going the chest burster route.
Oh, okay.
And what is the most famous treat within a treat that we have currently? But the Tootsie Pop.
Ooh, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie?
This is probably the best known ad campaign of a candy that
Do you know how bizarre you say that? Because I just saw that commercial. They still rerunning. They are still running that commercial. That little animated kids. All right, let's go.
And they need to have that because I hate Tootsie Pops. I hate Tootsie Rolls. They just seem processed, but there is no better known candy, I think, out there than the Tootsie Pop, thanks to that damn commercial with that out.
Tootsie Pop.
20 million Tootsie Pops produced each day. Did you ever watch...
Every day?
Did you ever watch The Apprentice when Donald Trump was on it?
Nope.
Whenever he had like a task to do, if it was something to do with animal products, they had to sell animal products on the street. Animal products is a 200 billion a year industry. So I always feel like I hear that voice in my head when I say stats.
Okay.
20 million produced each day. But that is the case. Roll it back because we've never talked Tootsie Rolls.
No.
So you got to talk Tootsie Roll a little bit at least before you bring in the pop.
You're doubling down here.
It was invented by an Austrian Jewish immigrant by the name of Leo Hirschfeld. He lived in Brooklyn. The story goes it's either he owned his own candy shop at the time or was an employee of Stern and Stahlberg, which was a bigger candy company.
Right.
But regardless, Leo invented it in 1907. He got the patent for it in 1908. And then Stern and Stahlberg, the company that he was working for, put it to market in 1909. So within 2 years of him coming up with it. He named the Tootsie Roll after his daughter, who was Dustin Hoffman. No, her name was Clara, but her nickname that he called her was Tootsie. So,
Tootsie. Hey, Toots.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was the first penny candy, the first individually wrapped candy.
This guy's revolutionary.
I think based on his Tootsie Roll, he becomes the vice president of sales of Stern and Stahlberg, which is the big candy company.
Sounds like a legal law firm.
It does. So he changed its name to the Sweets Company.
There you go.
In 1917.
A little more friendly.
Then only 3 years later, after he makes the big change to the sweets company, he was either fired or he resigned. Again, that's lost to time. He started his own company right away, but killed himself in 1922.
What?
Just 2 years after he was fired or resigned. The note he left behind said, "Sorry, could not help it."
The hell kind of a downer story is this? Every time I eat a Tootsie Roll now, I'll be like, oh, you know, this guy killed himself?
So this kind of goes along with Beetlejuice in a way.
Is he got candy in the afterlife? What's going on?
I don't know. But okay. Now, fast forward to 1931. A Tootsie Pop is invented by Luke Wisegraham, who is an employee at the Sweets Company of America, you know, who are still manufacturing the Tootsie Roll. So the way that he came up with this, he licked his daughter's lollipop whilst chewing on a Tootsie Roll. So
He's double dipping, huh?
he's double dipping. I envision, like, remember that Monty Python movie, The Life of Brian, the guy just
Yes.
vomiting at the table? I envision this guy looking like that. Oh, lollipop, oh, Tootsie Roll. And that's how he came up with it. Light bulb. So there you go. The popularity of this thing soared during the Great Depression since they were inexpensive, so you could get yourself a chicken dinner bar and a Tootsie Pop at the same time.
There you go, chicken dinner bar. I think we actually talked about that, didn't we?
We did. I have
Yes.
never heard of it
Yep,
before our
but
discussion.
there it
about
was, yep.
The first flavor of the Tootsie Pop back in those early days was chocolate on chocolate. So it was a chocolate lollipop
Yep.
over the chocolate Tootsie Roll. And then soon after, the pop became cherry, orange, grape, or raspberry. They also introduced at some point Tootsie Pop Drops. So it wasn't like a lollipop, but just like a little hard candy with the Tootsie Roll in the middle. World War II strengthened the company and the product further because Tootsie Rolls, not the Pops necessarily, but the Rolls, went into rations kits because
Ooh.
the rolls could withstand heat and time. So,
Okay.
again, maybe at the end of civilization, we'll have Yoo-hoo and Tootsie Rolls as everybody's main diet.
Twinkies.
Twinkies, that's right, Twinkies. As a matter of fact, one pilot who crash landed in the Sahara Desert lived on just Tootsie Rolls.
Oh, really?
Just Tootsie Rolls for 3 days.
Boy, you had to ration those out, huh?
He did.
How many do you think were in each one of their little ration kits?
I don't know.
I
But
take like one little nibble a day.
yeah. So fast forward through the decades, 1970. This is when the brilliant ad campaign of how many licks does it take to get to the center
Mr. Owl.
of a Tootsie Pop. There have been studies
To actually,
to actually
up?
come up with how many licks it takes.
did they
to
actually
get to the
employ
center.
owls to figure this out?
They did not employ
Because they are
owls.
wise. He had the little mortar college hat on there.
They employed college students.
Okay.
NYU did a study. Florida State University did a study. Purdue University did a study.
Did they do the study because of the commercial?
Yes, because of the commercial. Because the question is out there now. How many licks does it take? As a matter of fact, and this is true, this is not a joke, Purdue University in their study invented a licking machine.
Well, that would be the most consistent. Because I could take a little tiny lick with the tip of my tongue, or I can take a big long one that goes from the back to the front.
And all these universities came up with different answers. Not surprisingly, different answers. Using the machine,
Okay.
Purdue came up with an average of 365 licks per pop to get to the
That's
center.
one lick a day.
Now that's with the machine. With
Okay.
actual students, it came to 253 licks to get to the center.
That is-
University of Michigan did their own poll. They say it's 412. A college in Pennsylvania says it's even less than that. a medium of 146 licks. So that might be, maybe they had Gene Simmons in there. Who knows?
I know a couple of people who might want this machine, by the way.
So do I. Getting back to that commercial. I would never want to, because is it just like an ice cream lick? Like literally, you're just licking. You got to bite that.
Well, that's what the owl ate for 3. That's all.
Yeah, he can't help it.
He was impulsive. He couldn't help himself.
Yeah. Mr. Owl, played by Paul Winchell.
Tigger.
A 1, a 2, a 3. Now, here's another interesting aspect of the Tootsie Pop. I don't know if they still do this. I don't think they do. But back in the days, like of our childhood, 1 in 6 Tootsie Pop wrappers came with a rendering of a boy in Native American garb shooting a star with a bow and arrow.
Yes. Uh-oh.
Urban legend was that if you got one of these wrappers and you brought it to your local, wherever you bought the Tootsie Pop to begin with, your local convenience store, you'd get a free Tootsie Pop. It's not the case. Some convenience store owners were so tickled by this, they actually did give out free Tootsie Pops.
Who started this rumor?
I don't know. Maybe probably some kid like, I bet if I bring this back.
Just don't eat those Pop Rocks and soda.
So it was just like another design on there.
Right.
There was no real meaning to this that I could gather. Because there were other designs on these as well that were... Starting in 1982, Tootsie themselves, or the Sweets Company of America themselves, bought into this. So anybody that wrote to Tootsie asking about the Native American boy got a story back mailed to them called The Legend of the Indian Rapper. Now, I was going to make some joke about a Native American who raps, but I couldn't. So the original, also, this is an interesting, getting off on this, slightly racist tangent. Let's go back to the Tootsie Pop now.
Okay.
The original commercial not only had the owl, but it had a cow, a fox, and a turtle as characters as well. But that's been edited down over the years to just the boy and the owl.
I think I remember that. So the kid walked to
He
all
would go
the
to
different
each
animals,
one. He would go to each one. Yeah. I remember it as well.
Would they lick it and then he'd go to the other animal? Like, by the time I got to the owl, were there multiple animals that have already licked this thing?
I think that they just ate it. So it had to have been new pops for each animal. In the 90s, a new commercial emerged with the boy asking a robot and a dragon, but they failed miserably, so they brought back the owl.
Yeah, when in doubt, go with the owl.
When in doubt, yes. So that's it. That's all I got.
Wow,
there you have.
Roll, Tootsie Pop.
That was good, right? I couldn't leave that. I couldn't leave that.
No, I don't. I don't blame you. So go back to your opening statement. You said they 20 million a day?
Yes.
That's a lot of... I didn't know people still ate Tootsie Rolls.
So to me, the
Tootsie Pops.
Tootsie Rolls are the... that might be Tootsie Rolls, 20 million a day. But to me, Tootsie Rolls are the dregs of your Halloween. I throw those out.
And I'll pick around the Tootsie Rolls.
Yeah.
Because they stick to your teeth, and unless I'm gonna choke on it, and they'll find me on the side of the road somewhere.
Because I'm thinking to myself, did these even digest, or they just stay in my stomach?
No, yeah, they're like bubblegum. You were told never to swallow bubblegum, right?
Yeah.
Just takes 45 years to process.
Yeah.
Huh. Too bad.
But by that time, it takes 45 years maybe to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop.
see Beetlejuice hanging out in the afterlife, and there's just some guy sitting on the couch. You're like, "What are you in here for?" And he's like, I swallow that Tootsie Roll. Well, that was fascinating. There you go. We actually learned something.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so funny you mentioned that. Like I said, I just saw that damn commercial. I'm like, holy shit, this is still running this.
And I saw, not too long ago, I was in a TJ Maxx, and they were selling a plush of the owl.
Oh, I bet you could buy shirts, sure.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Huh. Whole new generation. That's multiple generations. That's got to be 4 generations.
Yes.
Yeah, they got their money's worth out of that. I wonder if Paul Winchell still gets residual checks.
They must, right?
He has to have. Yeah. That's amazing. That is the gift that keeps on giving right there.
And as a matter of fact, when they had the other animal characters in the commercial, I think Paul Frees did one of the voices on them. Yeah.
Well, he's probably not happy that they got rid of him.
No.
But I was the cow. Don't anybody remember the cow? Nope. Don't remember the cow. So,
all right.
Wow.
We got another wedding to go to.
Oh, we have another wedding. And I have nothing to wear. I went to a wedding last night. And I wore my Darth Vader tie in honor of the late great James Earl Jones. Yes, the groom is a Star Wars nerd, so he was very appreciative. And then showed me underneath his suit he had Baby Yoda socks. Indeed. All right, Corpse Bride, which is co-directed by Tim Burton. This is not a straight up Burton movie, but all of the characters are based on his sketches, just like Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yes. And so this is almost like a spiritual sequel or maybe prequel to Nightmare Before Christmas, depending on who you talk to, because there's lots of fan theories out there.
Well, if you listen to half of Danny Elfman's, because Danny Elfman did the score for this, and there are at least 3 songs that are very reminiscent of Nightmare Before Christmas.
You can't not, he's got a flavor all his own, and you can't not be reminiscent if you have these pieces of the puzzle that were also in Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah.
Mr. Selleck, though, is I did not see his name in the credits.
No. And I didn't even write down who the other co-director was, to be honest with you.
Mike Johnson is the other co-director.
That's a very generic name, Mike.
Is this not a Leica movie?
It is a Leica stop motion.
Okay.
Yeah. And the one thing I will say, which is when you see, again, a lot of these characters could have come right out of Nightmare Before Christmas world. But unlike that movie, where they had, not to get too deep into the special effects, but they had like a little facial expression of like the whole faceplate came off and it would just pop, to change the faces. This, they actually had like the faces were a little more malleable and they had keys in the back of the head that you could actually twist and change the emotion on their faces.
That is cool. That
like
would be a cool visual to put in the movie itself.
Yeah, well, if you ever watch, so again, I have the Blu-ray and there are multiple behind the scenes little mini docs on there. And like, so even like Victor, it's like a foot tall maquette. It's a some of these sets are massive because again, everything is practical. Everything is shot stop motion. Maybe they use a little CG to like clean up, some seams and stuff like that.
And I was thinking that maybe for the flowing veil of the bride, maybe that was CG.
Yeah, I wouldn't even put it past them that was in fact, practical. That they,
because I think they used CG for Zero, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think Zero was shot separately and then superimposed in there because he's translucent. Mm-hmm. But again, like you said, there's we have a dog in here, which is basically Zero. It's been a while since I've seen this, and I was happy to go back to it because there's a lot to like about this.
There is. Color-wise, when you're in the land of the dead, it's just...
Well, this is the beautiful thing, which is it starts and it's just everything is just monochromatic. It's all blues and grays, and it's dreary, but it's gorgeous. But yeah, once you go into the land of the dead, that's when all you get your vibrant colors.
It's a bore to be alive, is what they're saying.
Yeah,
it's
basically.
Like
it looks like a slog. It looks like it's no fun. This world. Who wants to live in this world? Although I do want a butler that just walks in front of me dusting all day. I'd be like, you missed one.
Unless you're a butterfly, then you've got some color to you.
That is true. I watched a YouTube special talking about the significance of that blue butterfly.
Yeah. You see, I watched this twice in a 1-week period.
Okay.
Just because I wanted to take it in again before we recorded. Like you, I haven't seen it in a long time. So watching it a second time just recently, you see right in the beginning, there's a picture of a young Victor and Scraps on the wall.
Right.
So like, oh, I'm going to see that dog later. The foreshadowing of the butterfly. Of course, you remember this at the end when Emily turns into butterflies and moves on. It's a callback to the butterfly at the beginning.
Yeah, which he was, is he like an entomologist? He was just doing like little drawings and then released a little bell jar and the butterfly goes loose. And
or just like a dragonfly, is that supposed to be Emily already? That butterfly.
You blow my mind, man. Yes. Yeah, no, this is beautiful. This is what's weird, it's based on a Jewish folktale. So there is some I guess early stories from turn of the century where the story of this corpse bride, but obviously he is so you don't really get a sense of it. It looks like Victorian times per se. Like you said, everything is kind of set in like these drab castles, no real color whatsoever. These people, you got the Van Dorts and the Everglots, so right off the bat you're like, you people sound like drags.
Now, I didn't really get this. Who wanted whose money and who was benefiting from this wedding?
Well, normally, if you're marrying off your daughter, someone's getting a dowry.
But they both seem to not have money. Like both families seem to think that they were making out from the other family.
That they were somehow getting over on the other couple. But one of them, so Lord and Lady Everglot, who was Emily's. No, Victoria.
Yeah, so Victoria. So that's easy to remember.
I know. And I'm like, there's no Julie Andrews cameo here. That's a missed opportunity. So the Everglots seem to have a little more money, or at least that was my intention, because the Van Dorts, Mr. and Mrs. Van Dort, where the Everglots are Lord and Lady. So the Van Dorts were, they're looking to get rid of Victor because he seems to be a bit of a square.
But the Van Dorts, they're just fish merchants. How much money can the Everglots get out of them? I
don't know. I would think back in the day that, the fishing cannery, there was you would get the newspaper, the town crier. And at one point he says, fishy fish fiance could be canned. It's like stupid little things like that. So I don't know. I don't know who was getting the better of the deal, but Victor, played by Johnny Depp, is basically Edward Scissorhands.
Yes, and all of his bumbling glory, Johnny Depp.
Yeah, right down to the facial expressions.
I thought it was basically it was Ichabod from Sleepy Hollow. That's who he's playing.
You know what? Yep, you are correct.
Some people will tell you that Victor is Jack Skellington before he died.
Oh, how'd he get a round head then?
I don't know. Yeah, Victor has a very heart-shaped face, so I can't see that. But
now you're trying to tighten. Well, you know what? Burtonverse. Here we go.
Yeah. Victor is betrothed to Victoria. They've never met. The two families have just put them together. But it turns out, and it's obvious after meeting them both individually as an audience member, that they are meant for each other. So it's not going to turn out too bad if these two kids get married.
They seem to kind of take a liking right off the bat. Although Mrs. Lady Everglot comes in and she was appalled that they were speaking together in a room with no chaperones.
Correct. And
but you're going to marry them off. You're going to marry them off. You're hoping that they're going to get offspring. How do you think that's going to happen if they can't interact? Did you catch the piano that Victor's playing?
Yes,
was it Harryhausen?
My wife pointed that out to me.
So. nice little Ray Harryhausen stop motion call. Yeah, so you're introduced to these two. I will say that Emily, played by Helena Bonham Carter, who we're going to meet in a little bit, and Emily Watson, who plays Victoria, almost look identical. Like there's not like one just looks like, all right, she's dead. The other one's not.
And I would like to point out that Victor seems to be a Bazooms man because they are both not lacking in that department.
Well, listen, he didn't choose Victoria,
but it just happily worked out that way for him.
Listen, I'm not going to hold it against the man. I don't. He comes across like he probably wouldn't know what to do with him, anyways. But good on you, Victor. Yes. Yeah, we even get that scene where he's wandering in the woods, and I'm like, here we go. This is Jack stumbling across the doorway to all the seasons.
Yes, because a wedding rehearsal is held, and Victor bumbles his way through it, and the priest loses patience. Christopher Lee playing
Yeah,
the
Pastor
priest,
Galswell.
yeah,
It
tells
was
him to
actually
get
fun. It
lost.
was fun. Yeah.
Do you even want to get married? So they tell Victor to get his crap together, and
Yes.
he walks into the woods and is practicing his vows and puts the ring on a dead branch coming out of the ground, which is not a dead branch, it turns out. It
It's
is the
not.
hand of Emily, the corpse bride.
And this is a really fun reveal. But again, this is exactly what we just talked about with Dolores in Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. This scene of this corpse coming back and pulling themselves together, right up there with Sally. I'm like, Tim Burton has a thing for women who fall apart.
The imagery here of this bride, so reminiscent of Dolores in Beetlejuice Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
She's not stapled together like Dolores
No,
is, but
no, no. And she didn't kill Danny DeVito. So one leg is still bone, one arm is still bone. How long's she been in there?
I
But
don't
you're
know.
right.
But
She's blue.
well, if there's a whole world down below that know her, how do they know her if she's stuck with her
in
arm
the in
above the
the in the
ground?
dirt. Yeah. You're already asking too many questions.
Yes. She grabs Victor, and because they're married, she's able to bring him down below.
There's some questions. There's some rules that don't make any sense because later they meet up with that elder Gutenecht or whatever his name was, and he throws some kind of a crow's egg that transports them back to the land of the living. But he says, if you choose to die, you can never return to the above. I'm like, but you just used a crow's egg to get them there. Can't they go back? It's just like a one and done.
New members of the Land of the Dead end up in a bar down there, and
Yeah, hell, if I'm going to die and go to, yeah. And like you said, everything is just drab and dreary and gray and monotone. And all of a sudden you wake up in the land of the dead and it is vibrant. People are having fun. They're drinking. The colors are just out of control. There's song, they're singing. You're like,
it's very reminiscent
Yes.
Halloween Town. Nightmare Before Christmas.
And they sing the song of the Corpse Bride, which to me was very Aladdin. Never had a friend like me, kind of a feel to it.
You get, as you said, her backstory of how she died. And apparently she was taken by a cad. She fell in love with this guy. Her mother did not approve. So she was going to meet him on the sly to elope. And as she's waiting in the woods, she is killed. And you're telling yourself, I bet that guy is the same jerk that we were introduced to in the beginning of the movie.
Was it Justin Theroux?
It was not Richard. It was Richard E. Grant.
Yes. So his character is what's his name? Lord Barkus Bitten. Mm-hmm. And the minute you see this guy, you're like, all right, this guy's the bad guy.
Yeah.
And you only see him in kind of shadow silhouette in that flashback.
But he's got the shadow has the same huge chin as Barkus.
Yeah. So anybody who's listening who doesn't know, we're located in the Hudson Valley region of New York. And there is a very famous story in Cold Spring. There is a train station about a woman who actually was trying to escape her abusive husband. And he killed her in the train station. And I guess if you sit in a certain booth at a certain time when the train comes through, you'll get a cold chill. So maybe the same thing. She's just like waiting. She's dead, waiting there for you. She never caught the train.
Spooky. I never heard that.
Yes. You know what my favorite was? I like Paul, who was the head waiter, and he literally was just a head.
Is a head waiter.
He was just a head.
Yeah.
And we're also introduced to the maggot that lives in her head, and he's voiced by Peter Lorre.
Somebody doing Peter Lorre, right?
I was say Peter Lorre's been dead for quite some time. But yes, I'm going to go get him.
So basically her conscience, her guide.
Yeah. Jiminy Cricket. Yeah. I'll keep an eye out for you. Literally pops her eyeball out.
So Victor is appalled by all this, and especially by the fact that it seems that, yes, he is married now to this corpse. And what has he done and how can he get out of it? So after acting, very terrified and wanting to get out of this, he decides to use reverse psychology and play along in order to get out. of the land of the dead. You really should meet my parents.
Yes. Yeah. Let's go up. Let's go back up.
Yep. So this is where they
Yeah.
come up to the crow's egg, and to figure out they go to the Yoda of the down below to figure out how to get up there.
Yeah.
And he
This
cracks a crow's
elder.
egg.
Yeah.
All you got to do is say hopscotch and you're back.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
So they go to meet the parent. He runs away from her as soon as they get up,
Yeah.
back to the
Sure.
land
Yeah.
of the
He's
living.
he scammed her. I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. Thank you.
Mhm. Runs back to Victoria, and he's like, okay, it's back to normal now. That was a nightmare. But Emily is following him, climbs up the parapet, up on the balcony, and says, "Who is this?" And now Victor has a lot of explaining to do. Once Emily realizes that she's been duped, angrily she grabs him, yells hopscotch, boom, back in the land of the dead.
Son of a.
So this is a really simple setup. How does Victor get back to Victoria? And also, how do we give Emily a happy ending? And that's basically what this movie is. It doesn't have 4 or 5 plots going on at the same time. And it's just beautiful. And you're drawn in by the lush Danny Elfman score. You're drawn in by these great actors doing the voices. You're drawn in by the character design. It creates a world. And I am shocked that I never watched this after I saw it in the theater, because it is a cult classic, rightly so. If you go into a Spirit Halloween this year, one of the big displays is Victor and Emily, like
Really?
larger than life animatronics.
Wow,
Yeah.
we're ahead of the curve on this, huh?
Yeah.
Or behind the curve, maybe,
Mhm.
since it's been a 20-year-old movie. But yes, we do find out that Lord Barkis is the one who killed her.
Now that Victor is gone down below, he has got designs on Victoria. So Victor now has to convince Emily that his rightful place is with Victoria. They've both got to go back up there and make things right. And there's a loophole, just like there was in Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Well, how do we fix this problem of Victor and Emily being married? Oh, well, the vows are till death do us part. You're already dead.
You're already dead.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And it was null and void the minute it happened.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that sucks. Here's your ring back.
So they have to go now and break up the marriage of Lord Barkis and Victoria.
Yeah, he's just like Jafar. He's like, Jafar, I'll marry Jasmine.
They're wedding crashers. Once they crash the wedding, Barkis doesn't seem too, surprised or horrified to see
all these dead people. Yeah, because they
Emily.
they all come back and they right. He's like, you're the one.
Oh, you.
And
he starts making fun of her, right? Immediately.
Yeah, I remember you piece of crap. Yeah, I do love when the dearly beloved and departed.
All the dead that come with Victor and Emily, they're all finding their loved ones that are still alive, like during this scene. Even the Scraps and the living dog are sniffing each other's butt. I thought it was funny.
It might have found a bigger audience if you didn't call it Corpse Bride. I don't know if people were turned off by that. I'm not going to take my kids to go see that.
Well, but what else are you going to call it?
I don't know. Dearly departed, Victor Victoria.
Oh,
which is a completely different movie.
Before Emily realizes that Victor isn't hers, that she's got to let him go to Victoria, she had a plan to get him to drink poison so he could die and then they would be together legally, I guess.
Isn't this how Barkis killed her? Right.
But Barkis ends up grabbing the drink because he's
this was actually good, right? He didn't realize, like he's like Garth Brooks walking into the wedding. He's like, "Oh well, buddy, down the hatch. I'm sure you're not happy to see me." Yep. He drinks the poison and dies, and there they go. Oh, we got a new arrival. Let's go welcome him.
Yeah, they don't actually welcome him.
No. It was implied that they were going to do heinous things to him, but he's already dead. So what could you possibly do to him?
And Emily says because she has closure now with getting her revenge on Barkis, she says to Victor, you've set me free, because he's very sorry that, I'm sorry it didn't work out with us. And then she moves on. Just like she's got a loophole, just like the Maitlands did.
She
in
did. She
Beetlejuice
did find a
Beetlejuice.
loophole. Yeah.
Yeah.
Comes a bunch of butterflies.
Why aren't all the other dead people in the bar able to move on?
Move
I
on.
guess they all have their own reasons. Who knows?
I don't know. Listen, I would want to leave that bar. It's like Cheers.
Yeah. Hey, skeleton. Yep.
Look like
Skeleton
a lot of
number
fun.
10, skeleton number 20.
Yeah, the
Hey.
skeletons are all dancing. It's a
Yeah.
hullabaloo every day
Yeah.
down there.
They're using, their heads for percussion. It's great.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. What's not to like?
But what's not to like? This is a great movie. It's really good.
Yeah.
Not quite on that Nightmare Before Christmas level. That is an undeniable classic, but this still can proudly stand next to it, I think. I would have liked more music in it, to be honest.
Yeah, like I said, there's 2 or 3 songs. Like there's one where she sings with the spider and the maggot, and it's like, all right, well, this is Sally's song. Like you can't help but compare, only because not only do the characters look almost identical, like you said, that I guess that there's theories out there that they all reside in the same universe, kind of a thing. But I mean, Danny Elfman, here he is. I might have to watch it a couple more times to really find its own rhythm. But I was thrilled to watch this again.
Yeah, and I was able to get the Blu-ray as well from the library because I don't own it. It was great. It was fantastic picture. Yeah,
like I said, the Blu-ray's got quite a few featurettes on the back end. One of which I thought was, so this took 55 weeks to shoot, which is just huge. 109,440 individually animated, framed, set up, and filmed sequences. Like that's a lot. Like at what point you're like, oh yeah, I lost track. I gotta start counting again. That's crazy.
I wonder if all the maquettes survived.
You would think so. I mean, this is only 20 years old, and this is not, these are not like Jim Henson Muppets that are made out of cloth and fabric that have been sitting in a steamer trunk somewhere for 40 years. You would like to think this stuff is they keep it all. Yeah. And like I said, again, watch a special behind the scenes. I mean, some of these sets are massive.
It feels like, because of the ties it has to Nightmare Before Christmas, it feels like this is a Disney movie, but it is in fact not. It is Warner Brothers. So how many buckets would you give? I'm
actually giving it the exact same as I gave Beetlejuice, 4.25.
4.25?
Yeah.
I'm going to go 4.
Okay.
4 buckets out of 5 for Corpse Bride.
4 out of 5. Yeah, I was very happy to watch this again.
Yeah, and like you said, it turned out to be, we didn't pre-plan it to be a complete tie-in to Beetlejuice, but it has a lot of things in common, so I think it worked out.
Thematically, especially with the wedding and the funeral stuff, like it's like, all right, yeah, Burton tends to play in the same playground a lot.
Yeah,
he didn't verge too far away from this one.
So what else did we do this week? I'm going to ask you that because I was too busy concentrating on staying alive the past week.
Okay, yes, and that's what we want to do. You have to take extra effort to keep upright and keep breathing, then so be it. So I went Burton adjacent. I didn't watch a Tim Burton movie, but I watched a sequel to a Tim Burton movie. Came across this on Shout TV. Big Top Pee-wee.
Oh, yes.
1988. So Tim Burton's premiere movie came out. When was 1985?
Yes.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure. So they did a follow-up. This one is directed by Randall Kleiser. And again, I found it on Shout TV, which is Shout Factory's streaming channel. And this looked spectacular. I have not seen this movie since I saw it in the theater. And on paper, this sounds brilliant. You're putting Pee Wee Herman into a traveling circus full of freaks. It makes perfect sense. But you include not one, but 2 love stories. He's a perpetual man-child.
Yeah.
The vibe of Pee Wee is that he's like a 6-year-old. I don't need to think about him having sex. It's weird. And you got Chris Christopherson's in this, Penelope Ann Miller, Benicio del Toro. is in this playing Duke the dog-faced boy. I'm like, that's 22 years before he played the Wolfman.
And this sounds like it would be right up Burton's alley.
Again, on paper, this makes perfect sense, but you can't like just the love interest aspect, because like I said, he's got not like Penelope Ann Miller is like this girlfriend. They break up and then he runs away and he joins a circus, and there's talking pigs and there's hippos and there's all this other crazy crap that you think would be associated with this Pee-wee's world. And then Valeria Golino, and he has a relationship with her. I mean, there's literally a scene where he's rolling around, at a picnic with his girlfriend, and they cut to a scene of a train going through the tunnel. I'm like, no, stop it. So again, I have not seen this in a very long time, but it was fun watching it, but it's a huge miss. Oh, you know who else is in it? Kevin Peter Hall, who was the guy who played Harry in Harry and the Hendersons and the Predator.
Yeah.
Shockingly, he played a tall guy in the circus.
So yeah, Burton is missed. I've seen it a couple of times, and you can't compare it to the original Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
No, and especially after watching Pee-wee's Playhouse, which was on constant rotation in my college days. It's a weird. They just went in a direction you shouldn't have gone with this character. I feel so, but I also did want to just bring it up only because you threw shade at this show a couple episodes ago. It might have been 6 months ago by now. I don't remember. So tonight are the Emmy Awards.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. So I finally sat through and I binged all of season 1 of Fallout, which is on Netflix.
Yes.
And overall, I really liked it. I thought it was well done.
Did I throw shade? Because I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
so.
No, you did. You did say it's up for 17 Emmy nominations. Most of them, I'm thinking, are in production, design, costumes, stunts, makeup. But Walter Goggins he got a nod for outstanding lead actor. I will say there's weird. I've never played a video game, so I'm not too familiar with the lore of it all. But there was a weird Phantom Menace element to it, which is like everything was a little too connected. Like it's like finding out that Darth Vader made C-3PO. Why does everything have to be connected? And there's some characters that tie back, but there's a lot of nice flashbacks, and the aesthetic of it's kind of like a retro 50s cowboy aesthetic, because they do flashback before the nuclear war explosion or whatever that put them in this new world. So, but I thought it was very well done. I enjoyed it. So,
and again, how many episodes is it?
I think there's only like 8 or 9. It's not a lot, but they're solid 45, 50-minute episodes.
Okay.
So,
all right. Maybe
but yeah, I did like it. I thought it was well done.
All right. So what are we doing next time?
Wow. What are we doing next time? Oh, I'm very excited for this. And yet at the same time, I'm very nervous. If you've seen the trailer for this, it looks spectacular. And I can't watch this trailer without getting weepy. The Wild Robot. The trailer is gorgeous looking. It's an animated feature. This robot crash lands and it's out in the woods or whatever. There's no dialogue in the trailer. So you're like, all right, is this going to be like a Wall-E, you just communing with nature kind of a thing, and it's all like pantomimed. And then at the end of the trailer, there's like 15, 20 different voice actors listed.
Well, the trailer that I just saw, because I did see a trailer for this before Beetlejuice, had the robot talking.
Oh.
So I must have seen a.
Yeah, I think the first trailer, it is just like, and again, we talk about this all the time. It just, you're showing me 10 minutes of footage. I don't need to see, just tease me. And from what I understand, it is based on a children's book.
What production company is doing this?
I think it's.
Is this?
I think it's DreamWorks.
DreamWorks. The writing is on the wall. Watching this trailer. This looks like Bambi with a robot. So I think that DreamWorks or whoever has now learned the lesson from Disney. You have to kill characters in order for your movie to be good.
Wow,
That's an
interesting.
overstatement. That's an overstatement. But
Okay.
I think that they're going that route with this.
Wow. So Bambi, you think would be a better pairing than
So
what we
well,
chose?
I see that this ending with this. I don't want to cause any spoilers, but I have no previous information.
We're all speculating right now.
Robot dies. Robot batteries runs out.
Son of a
yeah.
bitch. Oh, if that happens, I'm gonna be so mad at you.
It's gonna be a weepy.
It's your fault the robot died.
The robot's gonna die, and there's gonna be a bright screen, and the waterworks are gonna start. Yes.
Well, then hopefully there'll be a twist ending where there's a baby robot dream sequence where he comes back. Well, we already got that with Iron Giant. They killed the Iron Giant and then he came back at the end.
Yeah.
And then we never got a sequel or anything.
That's why the critics are falling over themselves. I bet it's because there's a huge emotional ending.
I guess we're going to have to wait 2 weeks to find out.
Yeah.
But even if this robot dies, our backup feature, he lives.
Well, he's alive. That was the whole tagline.
Johnny Five's alive. Short Circuit, 1986.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes. Okay. I think you're right. Yeah, 86.
I guess we'll find out next week.
Yeah.
I did just reserve it from the library. Unfortunately, they only have the DVD. I feel like this is a movie I can probably find on Tubi, but there's another one I've not seen in a very long time. It did have a sequel.
Yes, I remember the sequel.
2.
I remember the sequel. Yeah.
And hold on, this is our very first Steve Guttenberg movie.
Are you serious?
What else have we talked about him? We haven't talked.
What else was he in?
Police Academy 1 through 18. Cocoon.
Which one had Bobcat?
3 Men and a Baby.
Which one had Bobcat with the gang that was underground?
I think that's actually Police Academy 2, or maybe that is the first one. He talks like this. Steve Guttenberg was everywhere in the mid to late 80s. And now, I don't know. I do follow him on Instagram. I have seen a huge resurgence of those Police Academy movies showing up on some of these streaming platforms. Even like cable, they'll run like all 6 of them or whatever. You want to talk about some things that don't hold up. Maybe some questionable antics going on there, but that's fine. We're going to Steve Guttenberg, Johnny Five, Ali Sheedy coming off of Breakfast Club.
Yeah, just a year off of Breakfast Club.
Breakfast Club. Oh, she was. I hated her when they made her up at the end. I did not like that. I liked her more of a dork, but that's neither here nor there. All right, so that is coming up in 2 weeks.
What is the name of the robot movie? The Wild Robot.
The Wild Robot.
And Short Circuit.
Yes,
all
it's
right.
a Robotapalooza.
And you're up for the concession, so
I am up. I don't know if there's any robot themed candies out there, but I will find something.
All right.
I already got it in my notes. I'm up for a concessional treat. So
all right then.
All right. Well, as always, thank you very much for listening.
Yes.
Thanks for putting up with us. If you've made it this far, tell your friends, share, like,
do us a favor.
Subscribe.
After all the entertainment we offer you for free.
For free. Just throwing it out there.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep. All right. Bye.
Bye. If you like what you just heard, be sure to follow TMI Confessionals of the Nerd Kind on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify, or whatever you listen to your podcasts on. Also, be sure to email us at tmipodcast2018@gmail.com.
You can also follow us on all of our socials. We're on Instagram, X, Facebook, Threads. Just go to tmiconfessionalspodcast.com. All of our links are there. And leave us a 5-star review. See you at the concession stand. I've seen The Exorcist 1,000 times and I just keep getting funnier every time I say it.